It's much easier to make work for yourself than to make time for yourself. Retirement can mean that time is yours at last to do the things you love most with the people you care about. That could mean pottering about the garden, enjoying the tranquility of fishing, or a more active pursuit like cycling. It might be arts and crafts, or perhaps discovering a new skill. If your interest has been piqued by the great baking revival, there could be a new hobby there for expert or novice alike, from a simple creation to an elaborate masterpiece. Siobhan Lees of FMM Sugarcraft explains the appeal.
Baking has experienced a huge increase in popularity over the last few years. It's certainly one of those hobbies that is on the up at the moment. Lots of people are getting involved and trying their hand, and I think people that have maybe done other crafts are then seeing this as a new kind of craft to get involved with. So we're certainly seeing lots of people getting involved in it.
I don't think there's any limitations on age to cake decorating. I think it's whatever your imagination will let you do. I think there's, wonderful people can make wonderful creations whatever age they are, and also you can choose your project to your capability. So if you're very capable, you can make a fantastic flower arrangement, and if you're not so good, you just tap out a few things to put on top of a cake that'll still look effective.
Hi, I'm Carol Haycox. I'm going to show you how I decorate this cake for a Valentine's occasion. I'm putting on the board here some icing sugar. And I've got some sugar paste here, about 1 kilo for about an 8-inch cake. When I start rolling, I like my paste to stay in the shape of the cake that I'm actually decorating. So as you can see, each time I roll a little, I'm turning to keep it in a circle. So just keep turning. You'll note there's not that much sugar on the table. If you keep moving it, it won't stick on you. Now today I'm using a polystyrene dummy. If you're using a sponge cake, I like to put buttercream on my sponge cake to make my sugar paste stick to it. If I'm using a fruit cake, I like to use marzipan. I like to measure my cake by using the rolling pin, go across, and I know that that piece will just go down the side. So I know that when I've rolled my paste, it's going to be large enough to fit the cake I have. I'm just going to spray my cake just to make it wet so that my paste will stick. And this is where your buttercream or your marzipan would come in. Pop your icing over your rolling pin, bring the cake to you, lift it up, just rest it on the board, and over it goes. I then work with my hand, and I'm going to bring this upward. So as I pull the skirt, I bring it up all the time and just keep going around. Your turntable is quite important at this stage because it's doing a lot of the work for you. And if you notice, I don't work around the cake, I make the cake turn for me instead. And so my hands are always just about in the same place. That goes around until it's stuck to your cake. Especially if it is a real cake, the heat of your hands will make that really set in for you. I'm now doing what I'm doing because I like the edges of my cake to be nice and rounded because it's a sugar paste cake. I'm going to trim off some icing. I cut off, don't cut right into the cake. Take away. And we use our smoothers then to make it nice and flat against the bottom of the cake. And that helps so that you don't have that gap where it rides up the cake. This will allow it to go right down to the bottom of your board. So I bring the knife back to it and I cut like so. Smooth on the top and smooth around the sides.
I think cake decorating has become more popular. I think it really took off during the time of the recession where people were turning to their hobbies as a way of passing the time when they couldn't go out and do other things, and also as a way of making some money. You know, they could make cupcakes, or they could then turn this into wonderful creations and make a business by baking cakes for friends, and then that opens up into the wider society.
Baking seems to appeal to lots of different generations. I mean, people that would say start off maybe baking cakes at home for the children, all the way through to maybe to retired people that have got a bit more free time on their hands. But one thing that we've seen over the past few years as well is that with the amount of grandparents looking after children and minding them when their parents go to work, it's a really good hobby for the grandparents to do with the children. So they've really got to get involved in things like, you know, choosing the ingredients, measuring out the ingredients, working out baking times, working out all the different kind of measurements for a cake they're putting together. So it's good for the grandparents in terms of challenging them, but also they can be teaching their grandchildren new skills as well. And the children really are learning, but they're not realising that they're learning because they're having fun as well.
So take the same piece of paste, knead it up, and I'm going to put a nice bit of sugar, again, icing sugar. Some people say, can they use corn flour? But your corn flour will go into the cracks and it will dry the paste, whereas your sugar dissolves into your paste. So that's why we use sugar while we're rolling out and putting onto the cake. But you will see me using corn flour later. And now I'm going to trim this off. Just one side trim off. And take it from the end. Always have a nice flat side to start with and a flat side to finish with. Onto the board you should have some moisture. These are called water pens, so you just squeeze and the liquid comes out and puts moisture onto your board. Lift and pop on. Just take your time putting it around and allow the sugar to work for you, because your sugar will stretch for you. And round it goes. And if I tweak it a little, because it's nice and stretchy, I can get it then to finish for me. I'll take my knife and scriber tool and I will pull that in so I can disguise where I've brought those together. Put your finger and thumb onto the edge of the board like so and tidy off. Just going to bring it into here and I'm going to trim off. And when I trim, I work downward with the knife. And I like this to trim right clean to the board. When it goes dry, if you have any little pieces that hang over the edge of your board, when you pick your cake up, it can break it on you. And so your cake is ready for decorating.
Baking is really popular now in retirement, and cake decorating as well. People when they retire have got more free time on their hands, and I think nowadays people are living longer, they're living more healthier retirements as well, so they want something to occupy themselves. It's not a case of just giving up work and kind of sitting around and not doing anything. They want to have something that's interesting, stimulating, but also fun to do. And I think it's one of those kind of hobbies as well that it's a great connector, because there's groups and social clubs that are kind of dedicated to learning sugarcraft and baking skills. So it kind of helps people make new friends as well in later life.
So for this next part, I've made myself comfortable sitting down. I'm going to decorate the cake for a Valentine's Day occasion. So I've got some red flour paste, and I use flour paste because it's a bit stronger. I want to roll out nice and fine, and I want it nice and to look fine on my cake. So I will roll out on my smaller board, and I'm going to emboss it with some lace pattern. And I'm going to use some corn flour on my board, just a little. You really can't see it, but it makes your board so that everything doesn't stick to it. When I start rolling my paste, I have to make sure that my paste is deep enough to do the pattern I want on my cake. So I'm making it deep enough to make sure that it goes up and onto the top of the cake. So you don't have to then make a second decoration for the top of the cake as well as the side of the cake. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just measure to make sure that this is the depth I need it to have the design I want. So if you look, this just goes to the top of the cake. It's going to be deep enough to allow me to use my cutter and make a nice pattern on the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is make it lacy. So I put it onto the soft pad. This is called a forming pad, and it really is, it allows us to form things that are a bit on the thin side. If you wanted to put this onto a thicker piece of paste, you'd do it on the board. But because it's on a thinner piece of paste, use a soft pad. It helps then to emboss. I'm just going to lay this over here, put my rolling pin on, and across the rolling pin. Now, when I do this, I lay this so I'm just overlapping very slightly, and my rolling pin doesn't clip off the side of this. So I bring it into here, roll it just barely to the edge, and it moves so that the design moves along, and I'm able to make a longer piece.
I think the reason that men are perhaps getting more into it now is because it's seen as more acceptable. You see all these guys on the television, these, you know, the guys that people look up to, and they're making cakes. So I think it's become more acceptable for men to say, yeah, I can give that a go. I'm going to try and do that. I can make a better cake than you.
As a solo activity, or as a pastime to be shared, a great connector, as we heard from Siobhan, baking and Sugarcraft are about more than just making a cake. It can be imaginative, creative, and as simple or as sophisticated as you want it to be. Join us after the break for more.
FMM Sugarcraft, the UK's #1 family-owned business for all your Sugarcraft tools and equipment. Established over 50 years and still at the forefront, we continue to bring new products to market to meet emerging trends. All our products are made in the UK, and the range includes Sugarcraft and cake decorating cutters, equipment, piping bags, tubes, and much more. So whether you are new to cake decorating or more experienced, we have the products for you.
Welcome back. We've been talking about the resurgence of baking and had some Sugarcraft instruction from specialist Carol Haycox. But as Grace Clements of FMM Sugarcraft explains, you don't have to be an expert.
Sugarcrafting is for any level. You can start at the most basic level by literally cutting out shapes and putting on a cake, if that's what you want to do. And then then you can go up and you can make a very basic flour and carry on until you're making wonderful creations that people don't believe are made out of sugar. They think they're real.
To trim one piece, I'm using my ribbon wheel, and I have two different type of wheels on here. This is like a nice frilled edge and a straight edge. So you can see the straight edges for so, but I'm going to use this one on this end of it. And what this does is allow you to have a very nice little trim on the bottom, so that if you are in a bit of a hurry, you don't need to then start putting a shell on or a bead on. This trims the bottom of this very nicely for you. Now I'm going to turn my working board around, and as this goes onto here, another little bit of corn flour on here. That's quite important at this stage, because what I'm going to do is make a lovely pattern on the top with one of my cutters, and I need to pop this along the top here. Now I'm going to do this, making sure that's straight. Let's just tidy that up. Now put your fingers all along here, move it like so, and make sure that moves. And that's why you put your corn flour underneath, because it allows you to do and move like so. I'm going to lift that off, and you can see what I have here, and all my little tiny hearts. I quite often keep all these little tiny pieces in a box, and they're very handy for when I want to do like confetti, or you do cupcakes or anything like that. They're all there ready for you. I'm just going to tidy that little piece up there. because when you join the two pieces together, when you finish right around the cake, you need everything to be straight and as straight as you can get it. One of the nice things about this is you can put a shine on here. So if you get a nice soft brush and you start to, you'll get a nice shine on it. And we've gone from our red to the silvery colour. But when I put the shine on, I also allows so that my paste will roll. So if it's a little bit on your sticky side, it won't stick when I get to the next part. So that you do put some moisture onto your cake. Now you'll see I'm going quite far up on the cake, and again I'm just squeezing with my brush so it's nice and moist. Roll your paste. This is the easiest way of getting it on. If you start picking it up without rolling it, you can stretch it, and then you haven't, it won't fit for you. So as you set it onto the board, it unravels, comes around, and now just gently, don't be in a hurry to do it, just gently pop that in. And as you can see, it covers right the top of your cake as well as the sides. Smooth it on like so. Then you can continue around until you've covered the whole side of the cake. And it's going to collect up. And if you want to take your little hearts out, if you just tap onto your board, all your little hearts will come out and you can keep them. You can see I have a nice little trim on the bottom.
There's lots of advantages for retired people to learn about baking and cake decorating, and one of the key things is actually keeping your mind active, because you've got to be able to plan out the ingredients that you need, look at the recipe, design the cake, kind of think about the person that you're making the cake for. So there's lots of different aspects that actually comes together when you are designing and planning a cake for somebody. So from a retired person's point of view, they've got a bit more time on their hands, but they can also do something that they like as well. And I think you get a lot of joy as well when they're preparing a cake or a celebration item for friends and family, and it's that kind of sense of satisfaction as well, and a sense of feeling that it's really appreciated by the person that they're giving the cake to.
So I'm back to my flour paste. In here I've got some fat. It's vegetable fat. That's quite nice to keep on your hands to make sure things don't stick to you. So you need to keep everything kneaded up, and I'm going to roll this and I'm going to cut some lettering out. Now if you start with a fat piece of paste, you'll roll your paste and it will be too thick to be using your cutters. So always have what you think you're going to need. Again, make sure it's wide enough to fit the larger letters that you're going to use, and start rolling. Now you'll see I roll, and I'll roll fairly fine, and lift each time I'm doing, just lift. Get to there, and again just a little corn flour on here. Now if I want shiny letters, I shine the paste now, instead of waiting till you've cut the letter out and then you end up trying to do this individual letter. Takes time, haven't got time to be doing that. So we shine all this and get it without streaks in it. Make sure the paste is not stuck to the board again, make sure it's moving, and then you're going to pick up what letters you want. Now I'm going to start with a B, and move, so it's moving, pull the paste away. Your letter is in your cutter now. We're now going to use the lowercase letters, so we only need a smaller piece of paste. So take it away, and you just keep working till you've got all your letters that you need. And you can see the paste just keeps moving on the board. And we have to go back for an E, so that's where this comes in. We'll take away the pieces we don't need out of here. We'll then tap it on the board, so we've got our E here. So I like to know that I've got all the letters cut out that I need. So I'll put it on in front of me. And then I'm ready for putting it on the cake. So always bring your cake so that it's down in front of you and not up on your turntable. That way you're not lifting the letters halfway across your table. And you're easily able to see where you're able to put your lettering. And don't worry if they just slightly misshape. We're going to just pop them all onto here. And keep an eye that you have put them straight, because sometimes we're concentrating so much on getting all this where we want it, we miss a letter out.
It's not really difficult to learn about cake decorating. It's one of those things that you can go at your own pace. Buy some tools that will give you the basic kind of equipment that you need to actually be able to roll out the fondant, cut the fondant, and then do some shapes. And then once you get good at that, because we find that people want to feel successful quite quickly, so if they produce a cake and it's easy to do and it looks good, that then gives them the impetus then to go further and to try and explore new equipment, new techniques. And nowadays with the internet as well, you know, people can log on to YouTube, see different tutorials, and then think, you know, I can have a go with that. And then as they're learning their skills, then they can build up their toolbox as well.
It isn't an expensive hobby. You can start off with a very small basic kit and then progress as you want to go. And there's none of the items are hugely expensive, and it's just a case of building up your case of products as you go.
Just to finish my cake off, I baked some little cookies, and I'm just going to cover it with just a little white paste. And of course, to make it pretty, we're going to emboss it with the mat that I used for around the side of the cake. I'm going to use some dust to make it shiny. And the cutter I used to make the cookies with, just cut a nice little heart out of that. And you can use buttercream or a little royal icing on here to allow that to stick for you. And then take a small amount of red and roll. And it depends on how much you love your loved one, how nice you make the top of this cake. So again, make sure it's not stuck. A little corn flour, a little dust to make them shiny, and use your heart cutter to cut out 2 hearts, and then use the smaller heart cutter to cut. Now you really just make sure you line that up. So you get 2 hearts like this and line this up. You can see I just tilt back slightly to just make sure I line them up. Of course it sticks to you, but if that keeps happening, you've got your corn flour, don't forget. And 2. And you can cut one of these and entwine them in together. And now you have 2 hearts entwined for your nice little cake. And that can go so they can be your cookie. So you can see I've finished this one. Now I like to do this in the red, and I've covered the cake in red and then trimmed in white, where we were working with white cake and trimmed in red. If you're a beginner, I recommend that you cover your cake in white and trim off in red, because red is not easy to cover a cake with. So, but you can see the finished product here. So you can see I've just put my little cookie on here with my entwined hearts. Be my cookie.
People often say to me, oh, I don't think I've got the skills to get started and I don't know where to begin. I think the first thing to do is to actually, get yourself a small toolkit pulled together. Find some cakes that you like, that you see other people have done, and then start literally, you know, there is no harm in actually copying what somebody else has done to kind of get some ideas. And then from there, once you kind of get the basics, then you'll start developing your own style and start putting your own kind of stamp on it.
I believe that baking is here to stay. I think it's a hobby that lots of people from all walks of life have taken up. I think it's something that they can enjoy, and if they get good results quickly, they'll carry on doing it. They enjoy doing it, and in some cases, they make money by doing it. And obviously the social side, so I think baking's here to stay.
Hobbies that can be shared with friends and family can be the best kind of hobbies. Whether you want to channel your inner master chef or just bake something a bit special for family occasions, Baking and Sugarcraft offers something for all. And that's just one of the countless possibilities that retirement gives you the time and space to explore. A really stimulating hobby, once discovered, provides opportunities for learning, for socialising, for fun, and becomes one of the things you most look forward to, that keeps you active and engaged in body, mind and spirit. What will you choose?